My son has an addiction and the entire family is suffering. We want to help him out, but it is very difficult to know what to do. Just accept karma? What would the Buddha do? Well, why did your son become your son? Usually, according to the sutras, there are 4 reasons. And if we can classify the nature of these 4 questions, 2 questions belongs to the monetary side, money, the debt, and 2 categories belong to the emotion side. Now let's get to the monetary side. It says that if your son or your daughter become your son and your daughter, they come because you owe them money. They come to get money from you. He may not love you, he just wants to spend your money because you owe them money. And now take this scenario as the first scenario and then let's explain it. If you owe people money in your previous lifetime, and you can get away from it. Legality cannot do anything on you because, say for example, that person has died already. You owe him, say, $500,000, for example, and he wanted to sue you because you didn't pay, and somehow he died. And you think that's it? No more debt? The karmic energy still exists. Because you didn't repay, and you promised to repay, but you didn't. That's why it's the reason why he wanted to sue you. You promised to repay $500,000 that you borrow from them to do something. Let's say, for example, to do your business. You fail, and you think that, oh, I fail. I borrow money from you. Yes, I fail. If I fail, I'm bankrupt. How can I repay you? You think your liability is off. But you really owe that person money. It does not matter whether your business is successful or not. You actually borrow money from them. And then you think you can get away from it? You can get away from it in this life, legally even. But you cannot get away from it karmically. Because in that person's mind, you cheated him. $500,000. And if his mind is so strong that you have done something wrong to him, he will come back to get you. If not this life, maybe the next life. He will come back to get you. How did he come back to get you? He could come back as your son, as a daughter, as your husband, or as a friend. Somehow he wants to get the money back from you. And somehow you have to repay because the karma is created that you have to repay it. It's not balanced. So you got $500,000 and you promised to repay and you haven't repaid. In your general ledger of life, you still have that liability in your general ledger that you have to pay. And in his general ledger, life general ledger, he has an asset that he should have got that you haven't repaid him. That's karma. That's causality. You can't get away with it. Nature says that whenever there is a cause, it would carry into an effect. For example, if you plant a tree, you don't care about the fertilizers, you don't care about the soil, you just plant it in anywhere. You have a careless cause. You plant that tree. Everything is not right. No water, nothing, and no fertilizers. You think that tree will live? No, that tree naturally would. That's nature. Nature says a tree needs water. A tree needs soil. A tree needs somehow tender loving care from nature, and that doesn't come. So that tree would fail. That tree would get rotten. It will not grow. So that means the logistics of nature is that there's a cause and there's an effect. If you're a student and you want to pass examinations with good flying color or an A, but you're so lazy that you don't want to study. You don't attend lectures, you don't listen, you don't even buy the textbook, and you just wait till the exam comes, and then you just put in all a few words. You think you'll get an A? Nobody can. Because the causality, the natural logistics of nature says that if there's a cause, there's an effect. On the other hand, you want to get an A, but you are so enthusiastic about it. You want to study well, you listen, you go to all the lectures, you get all the notes, you write a good exam, you're going to get an A. There's no free lunch. So it's a natural logic of nature that you cannot contradict. And now you owe, I'm just giving you an example, you owe your son $500,000 in the previous life. You think he's going to get away with it? He comes back to get you. You have to spend $500,000. And I know a friend, a lady, a well-to-do lady. I met her in Toronto, and she had a daughter. And she spent so much time in nurturing her daughter, getting mentors from grade 1, pianos and teaching, and all kinds of mentors for helping her in her studies. And she spent a lot of time with her daughter. All the time as a housewife, she spent all the time. And then the daughter became very successful in studies and got into Harvard Law School. It's very difficult to get into Harvard Law School. She got into law, she graduated, and she became later, 1 or 2 years later, she became the first judge, a Chinese judge, in the history, in American history, the first Chinese judge. And the mom loved her so much, of course. She died immediately, 1 month after she got the appointment. And the mother was so grief-stricken that the mother died 1 month later. You know, she was coming to get all this attention, all this back. So, money, he wanted to come to get the money back. On the other hand, if your son owes you the money, he borrowed $500,000 from you before, he came back to repay you. He will repay you. Somehow, one way or another. There are sons with so much filial piety in their son's heart that he loves his mom. Not loving, not talking about love. He wants to give the mom everything, all material wants. Even buy an apartment and all that, because he came to repay previous life. That's talking about just money or kind. How about emotions? Your son came, the relationship between you and your son in previous life could be husband and wife. You betray your husband, and he hated you. You did wrong things to him. Emotionally, he came back to get you. He will do the same thing to you. No matter how much you loved him, he won't love you. Or he may do things that would hurt your heart so much that you can't get over with it. He came back to get you. And there are sons who came back to repay love to you. He loves his mom so much, he listens to his mom all the time, he makes his mom very happy. There are sons like that. So which category do you fall into? It's your own creation. Nothing to do with others. It's fair. If it is not that way, it is not fair. You owe somebody money in your previous life and you can get away from it. You think that's fair? You betray your husband or you betray your wife and he died with a broken heart. And that's it? Nothing will happen? The logic of nature, of the universe would say, it's not balance. It's not equilibrium. It's not going into equilibrium. Everything is trying to get this equilibrium. If it's not balanced, it would try to get there. So what's the attitude then we should have in dealing with these things? We should think about, first of all, that it could be a repayment on my side. Or it could be a repayment of debt, a repayment of my emotions. I must have done the same thing before. Now I'm repaying it. I'm glad to repay it. I suffer, but when I'm suffering, I'm repaying it off. That's my first attitude. I don't blame anybody. I won't be so grief-stricken that I want to kill myself. No. Because you have done exactly the same thing to him when you were his son. So just accept it. Accept it with responsibility. How come you love your wife so much but your wife hated you? You just say, I accept it because I could have done the same thing to her. Then when you accept it, it becomes easier to you. You don't have disgruntled about it. You won't object it. You won't have hatred against it. Don't put hatred in it. Don't put anger in it. No anger, no hatred. Just accept it the way it is and slowly resolve it. Don't hate your son. Don't hate the society. Don't hate your husband. Of course, there must be a husband who did not care about his son. That's part of the karma. You could have blamed your husband. Look, my son is like that because my husband didn't do any education, didn't bring the son well. My husband is always, doing his work and he ignore his son and all that and all that and all that. Yeah, that could be part of the reasons. That is the karmic energy too. Why did you get associated with your husband like that? It's also a karmic energy. You are the creator of your own destiny, not God. God is, if that is a God, God is fair. He won't give you a bad son and give somebody else a good son. God, if that is a God, God must be fair. Otherwise, he would not be defined as a God. God give you a bad son to test you out? I don't need that testing. Why do he give me a bad son to bring me a broken heart and test me out? If you are the recipient of that broken heart, will you say it is fair? So don't think about this God concept now. You are the creator of your own destiny. So what is your attitude in doing it? Accept it with no anger, no hatred. Just think about, I'm repaying it. I must be kind to him. I must be, if he needs something, I need to, but my responsibility, tell me, I got to explain it to him with my full responsibility that this is no good. If he has certain addictions, that I use whatever I have to repay. Now that's the second attitude. Accept it with no anger and hatred, only with love. And then secondly, explain it to him. Try to educate, pass education on. Don't hate. Now if you accept it, you are trying to balance it out. It's just like when a debtor says, okay, I want to repay you, but can I repay it in sequence? And then the debtor would say, okay, then the debtor would not be as angry. If he say, I reject you, I didn't owe you any money, I hate you, you get $500,000 from me, he'll be more angry. Which way you choose? You got to repay it anyway. If given that you have to repay it, you repay it with anger would hurt yourself. You repay it with acceptance would not hurt yourself. Which will you choose? It's difficult. It's difficult to swallow. But you have to learn to swallow it. It would be difficult for him to swallow when you didn't repay the $500,000. Have you ever thought of other people suffering when you did something wrong? You only think about your suffering when that person inflict pain on you. Accept it with no anger and hatred. Extend your love. Try to remedy the situation by paying. And the reason why we call Buddha the well-honored one is the Buddha said there are ways that this could be resolved faster. How do we do that? Say, for example, if you're a philanthropist and you always give money out, you have the karmic energy of giving out. On the other hand, you owe your son $500,000 and your son comes back to get you. Because of you giving out all the time, the karmic energy of giving out is so strong that it would wash away, somehow lessens the impact of that debt to you. Because it's all karmic energy working. So that the more you are in reforming yourself spiritually, in giving out and not being stingy, the more you are cushioning the effect of that impact. Well, I think I already have answered, well, quite a bit of that. I hope you know what I mean. Nobody can help you. Don't put the pain into you. Don't create the anger and hatred. Accept it with love. Accept it with the sensibility of repayment. And swallow it slowly. It's difficult to swallow. But nobody would swallow it for you. Nobody can help you. You have to help yourself because you created that karma. If the karma you created can be helped by somebody else, then you wouldn't have the karma because Buddha would have helped you already. Buddha can only show you how to lessen the impact. He cannot wash away. Buddha cannot wash away the karma. It's only logical. If Buddha, somebody called Buddha a God, if God can wash away your sin, there wouldn't be any sin around. God will not wait after you suffer to wash away your sin. There's no God. There's no God. So per se, there's no God. It's you. Only you. You could be the God in you. You could be the devil in you. If you want to look for that God, it's in you. The devil is only in you. And any more question? No more? The person who asked that question, are you satisfied with the answer? Or is too embarrassed to raise a hand? Okay? Accept it with love. And you can swallow it slowly and get into the spiritual side. Get your son to come into a temple and listen more to lectures. So in his heart, he may say, maybe I should forgive. I should forgive. There is this forgiveness always there, then this may become easier to swallow. You know why? Because he did not want to forgive. That's the reason why he becomes so rebellious. He is addicted to make you pain. But if he knows how, because you render him in return, not with the money, but with the love and tenderness, with the care to enhance him spiritually, that somehow would wash away some of the, would cushion some of the impact on you. It depends on you how you do it. The more you benefit him, the better will be the impact. The cushioning would come. So it depends on you how to work it out. It's difficult. But sometimes if we think in a positive way, it's because of my son doing this to me that I start to look for comfort somewhere, that I look for answers somewhere, and I went to that temple and that temple told me that this is something like this. Maybe I should develop my spirituality. That already helped. That means that adverse case, adverse scenario leads you to something positive. You would never have known about this until you discover that spirituality in you. That triggers the thought in you, yes?
Venerable, using the same logic, we can probably solve all our problems. Would you say?
When there's a problem, there's a solution. There's no problem without a solution. It depends on how that is solved. There's no such thing as we can even solve the problem of dying. You don't have to die anymore when you're in nirvana. Nobody can solve the problem of dying, but the Buddha said, yes, you can. That's the reason why the prince, Siddhartha, became a monk and later become enlightened and become a Buddha, because he wanted to solve the problem of dying. You don't have to die anymore. You go through dying because of reincarnation, because you're involved with karma. When you're in that level of nirvana, there's no more dying, no more aging, no more sickness. Imagine there's no sickness, there's no war, there's only peace. Did you listen to that song? Imagine. Well, if you develop spiritually that song further, imagine all these things with no conflict. It happened. All problems can be solved.